So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, and Text 8. I'll read it times. I'll chant the text 3 times, and anyone who feels so inclined and wants to chant can chant at that time. Hare Krishna. Okay. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Adhitavan Dvaparado Pitu Dvaipayanad Aham
Idam
Idam
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam. I'll chant 2 more times, then you can chant Matadi. No problem. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Adi Tavan Paradau Pitu Dvaipayanad Aham Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Adi Tavan Paradau Pitu Dvaipayanad Aham. Hare Krishna. So chant Mataji.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Aditavana Daparado Pitura Daipayena Daham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Adhitaivandva Paradau Pitu Dvaipayadaham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Nichagopal Prabhu, you want to chant? I know you just got on, but if you want to.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhivatam Dvaparado Pitrudvaipayanadaham.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, so we'll do word for word now. Idam, this, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nama of the name, Puranam, Vedic supplement, Brahma Samhitam, approved as the essence of the Vedas, Adhitavan, studied, Dwapara Adau, at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, Pitu, for my father, Dvaipayanat, Dvaipayan, Vyasadeva, Aham, myself. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srila Dvaipayan Vyasadeva. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The statement made by Srila Shukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist who is beyond the jurisdiction of regulations and restriction mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead is verified by his personal example. Shukadeva Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Pariksit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvaipayan Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy and physiology are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavat. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, entourage, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, Srila Vyasadeva. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidents are mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. It is called Brahma Samhitam because it is the sound representative of Lord Krishna, like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapar Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwapar Adau, or the beginning of Dwapar Yuga, in this context means just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of a tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of a tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of a tree is seen first. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as the beginning. Om Gyanat Virandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Amritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini, Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschantyadi Shatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So the translation again. At the end of Dwapar Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature, namely Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas, from my father, Srila Dwaipanya Vyasadeva. So this is Srila Shukadeva Goswami speaking, and speaking to Maharaj Pariksit. Now he brings his own life from the beginning when he was in the womb of his mother. He heard Srimad Bhagavatam because it was actually being spoken by Srila Vyasadeva, his father, to his mother at the time. So he studied Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing from Vyasadeva. And at that time, those who were, especially the pure devotees of the Lord, and Shukadeva Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, they can hear something once and they'll remember it. So, like that, Lord Chaitanya also talked about that particular capability at the time that he was debating Keshava Kashmiri. He says, you can compose so easily, like in American terms, at the drop of a hat, instantly you can compose. I also am a Shrutidar. I hear something once and I remember it. So Shukadeva Goswami studied Srimad Bhagavatam under his father, because the father was in fact the one that was tasked with the duty of writing coming up with the Vedas. So he was compiling it. There was one Vedas, he divided it into four, Rig, Atharva, Yaju, and Sama Veda, all of that he did. And then Nada Muni later on met up with him. Nada Muni is his guru. And when Vyasadeva, was dissatisfied with his work after he finished it, there was so much Kamakandik stuff in the Vedas at the time, which was definitely used and later on abused by people who just wanted to eat animals. So there was not much of discussion about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Narada Muni said, that's what you have not written, Vyasadeva. So then he compiled what became Srimad Bhagavatam under the instructions of Narada Muni. So a few things that stand out in the purport that Srila Prabhupada said was, first, Sukadeva Goswami was accepted by all the topmost sages. Remember, at this time, the Srimad Bhagavatam is describing the last 7 days of what's transpiring in Maharaj Pariksit's life. So many high-level devotees of the Lord, sages, demigods, had assembled at the banks of the Ganga. And they are getting ready to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. They knew that Srimad Bhagavatam would be spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. They knew that Shukadeva Goswami would get there and he would speak, because they could tell the future. They were Trikalagya. They knew past, present, and future. So they came to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Why Srimad Bhagavatam? Because Srimad Bhagavatam talks about Krishna. And it is said here, the text before this one, verse 7, that, and Tanamaya Swami actually repeated that, this point, which was directly in the translation, that those who are at the level of not just sadhana bhakti by rules and regulations, but bhakti by following from the heart, they definitely discuss the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it gives them very, very, very great pleasure. The glories of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, and other books too that describe the glories of the Lord. They are all transcendental. It is very important for us to understand that, because Krishna has made a statement in Bhagavad Gita about his birth and his activities all being transcendental, even if they resemble some of the activities that a regular human being performs here. If some of them, and a few of them do resemble like that, we should never look at it, if it's coming from Krishna, as it's just material. For example, Krishna plays the flute. Now, how many flautists are there in this world? There's a whole lot of people that play flute. But their flute playing is material, and Krishna's flute playing is transcendental. And nobody plays flute so that the animals in the forest will stop to listen to it, that the Jamuna would even stop flowing and remain steady just to hear. So Krishna's flute playing is, my Guru Maharaj called it far out. It's at the nether level. Nobody is at that level. So everything about Krishna is transcendental. And when understanding that person would then see Krishna as the topmost and surrender to Krishna, knowing that that is actually where happiness would be and protection would be. And that person, Krishna promises, would go back to Godhead after they leave this body. Having that understanding. So the Sukadeva Goswami, he himself says that he was very, very much attracted by Srimad Bhagavatam. And so he studied Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam has practically everything you want to know about life in it. That's important. Yesterday, Chaitanya Chanamali Swami was talking about the essences, the nuts and bolts of some parts of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he cited, I think it was Canto 2, Chapter 9, text 33 through 36. That when you read that, so as time permits, we will go into at least one of them to describe what Maharaj talked about, because I asked him for the reference and read them, and I think that it would be good for us to know. It is quite technical in some ways, but it really, really establishes the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so we'll get to it a little bit later. So Srimad Bhagavatam has to be studied under the able guidance of an experienced and qualified high-level devotee. One does not read, and I know one instance, and I won't mention any names, of one man, young man, came to the temple, and he revealed that he actually read the books. He read Srimad Bhagavatam, he had read Bhagavad Gita, and he said he knows what's in them because he's read them. Now, he didn't read it under the guidance of anyone, like Srila Prabhupada is saying that we should do, but he read it by himself. And then, he started talking about it, especially at the time when we have prasadam. For us, in the basement of the temple is where it's a nice, almost the same square footage as the temple room itself, but we have prasadam there. So he was speaking, and some of us were listening, including myself, and it became clear that this point that Srila Prabhupada made was really, really, really on point. It cannot be studied. Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be studied at home by one's intellectual capacity, because some of the references he gave and some of his reasoning for it was actually not the same as the acharyas have been talking about. And so it's a fact. Second point is we're going on, actually, we have a program called Bhakti Lounge. And Bhakti Lounge, we discuss Srila Prabhupada's small books. The first book we're discussing is The Science of Self-Realization. I myself was given that book first time I came into Krishna consciousness. It was given to me as a gift by Bhakti Swami. He told me to read it and then come ask him questions. I read it and then asked a couple of questions, one about Lord Buddha and one about vegetarianism, which he answered. Now, in Bhakti Lounge, we're reading the same book again. And because they're like at least 2, sometimes as many as 5 devotees that come on Zoom and take turns to read, that book and the understanding of it is going to a whole different level compared to the first time that I read it. There's no comparison. There is really no comparison. The details and the questions and it's just so much. And it's the same book, same words. So there's no question that when we study under the able guidance of an experienced devotee, high-level devotee, or even have discussions among ourselves so that our realizations come out, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the same texts, take on a different, it's like it's a different covering of it. A different mood comes out of this. So we encourage you, all of you, to read, sure, but at times when you get the opportunity, discuss it with others so that, or if you can read with others too, that's wonderful. Bhakti Lounge is a program where you can easily, get on yourself at any time and hear, and we're going to be reading a lot of books. Science of Self-Realization is the first one. We're just like a third of the way through with it, a little bit more. And after that, there'll be more small books by Srila Prabhupada that we will read through and have greater understanding when we have discussions. So the example that Srila Prabhupada gave about having to read these books under the guidance was one can go to a bookstore and get books for training to become a doctor and read them himself or herself. But would that person be qualified to be a doctor? No, it doesn't work like that. The universities that we went to for the different subjects, the textbooks were there. The textbooks were there. But the professors explained every day the content of the material that was in the textbooks that could be read. And many, many students would admit that hearing the professor explain the same things that's in the book made more sense. It opened up a better understanding. So Srila Prabhupada is making the point that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate studies of the science of Godhead. You learn it by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. And we have to be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada himself, because the way he has written these comments, we call the purports, using very simple language. Many of the books that he read from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj and from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, some of the language, even the English language in it, was at a higher level, were more big words than, but he read them and he understood them, and then he broke it down to very simple language so that we all don't have to have a very high level of understanding of the English language words in order to understand this. This is also the mercy of the Guru. So, even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said to a learned Brahmana that we have to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a person. So it is extremely, extremely important. And then the main point, another point that Srila Prabhupada makes, is that Bhagavad Gita is a sound representative of Lord Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita is a sound incarnation of Krishna. Why? Because it is spoken by Krishna himself. And Krishna is absolute. So words by Krishna are Krishna. That's why it's a sound incarnation of the Lord. Everything that he does is in fact him, because he's absolute. And we said we can't be absolute. Krishna's paraphernalia is Krishna. So he is so versatile and so powerful. The things that we would say, things about him or from him, are still him. That's why when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. That is Krishna. That is Krishna, the sound incarnation of Krishna, the sound representative. Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by an incarnation of the Lord, Sri Vyasadeva, about the activities of the Lord. So this is extremely, extremely important that we understand what these books mean to our lives and how we are to study them. Now, I talked earlier about the point made by His Holiness Chandamali Swami, and we'll go to it now. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, text 33, 34, 35, and 36. And of all these four texts, Srila Prabhupada gives very, very long purports for them. So we'll look at 33. 2:9:33. Aham evasam evagre nanyat yat sat asat param paschat aham yat etachcha yo vashishyeta sosmi aham. He's speaking to Lord Brahma. He means the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead. So he says, Brahma, it is I, the Personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the Personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the Personality of Godhead. So this means that The Lord, he's telling Lord Brahma, but of course for our benefit, the creation, the material creation, was from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was existing before this creation. So I remember way back in the early 90s, a question that I had in the back of my mind before I came to Krishna consciousness was answered. So in the Bible, it said that the Lord created the heavens and the earth. And I always thought about this. The Lord created the heavens and the earth. And they say the Lord is in heaven. So that didn't add up to me because my question was, if he created the heavens and the earth, well, where was he then before he created the heavens and the earth? Where was he? Hmm? He may be living in heaven now. That was my point now. This is I was Christian and thinking like that. He may be living in heaven now, yeah, because people build houses and they can move into the house and live. So that's not a big deal. We all know that. But before they built the house, where were they? Were they living in that house? That's not possible. That's not possible. So in my mind, I'm saying there had to be somewhere that he was living. And sure enough, when we came to Krishna consciousness, the answer was given. The Lord was existing or was living in the spiritual world. Then he created this material world. Hmm? So that was explained. This is here. This is what Krishna is telling Brahma. Hmm? Before this material creation that you see, there was this me. Hmm? And when it got created, here it is. That's also for me, my energy. And when it gets annihilated, and it will be, and at that time, it will go into the body of Mahavishnu, who is also an incarnation of Krishna. So Krishna will still remain. Always there, without beginning, but he's the beginning of everyone. And he's also the cause of all causes. This is explained by Lord Brahma, and Krishna is explaining to him. So, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of this particular text, text 33, that we should note very carefully that the personality of Godhead is specifying great emphasis on himself when he's addressing Lord Brahma. That he, the personality of Godhead, was the one that was there before the creation, and he's the one who maintains the creation, and it is also he who remains after the annihilation of the creation. Brahma is also a creation of the Supreme Lord. He came from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from the navel grows this lotus, and the Lord Brahma is born on this lotus, from this lotus. So there is a principle of I. This is a little technical, but still I think it's important to explain it. The principle of I, Krishna. So there is the emanation from I, and then the source I. The source I is Krishna, and from him emanated Lord Brahma. So sometimes impersonalists, they mix these things up. They say, oh, well, the Lord is the creator I and the Brahma is the created I. Well, therefore, there's a difference between the two I's. Now, Srila Prabhupada accepts that. I, the predominator, Krishna, and I, the predominated. That's all of us, including Lord Brahma himself. But Lord Brahma is first, of course, in the universe, and he creates many. And he creates many eyes, including the jiva. He himself is a jiva, but he creates others too by the empowerment given to him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the Katha Upanishad, it says, Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidarati Kaman. The creator I, Nitya Nityanam, supports every all of the other created eyes. That one supports all of them, all of us, I should say. So there is a singular I, which the creator, and then the created eyes, they are plural because there are many of us. So this is what's explained by Srila Prabhupada. Like the father creates or begets a son, and then the son creates many other sons. And all of them may be one as human beings, but at the same time, they're different from the father. That also explains the simultaneously one and different, that this whole point that was made by Lord Chaitanya. Achinta Beda Beda Tattva, the truth of that. A very simple example. The father begets a son, and the son creates many other sons. Are they in unison with him? Yes. One, because they are human beings, and two, because they are relatives as sons and grandsons and great-grandsons and so on. But are they the same as the father? The answer is no, because the father is an individual, and then these sons are also, and grandsons, they're also different. But the important point is the son coming into existence can't take place without the father, nor can the grandsons. So simultaneously, the father, the son, and the grandson are one, then they're also different. So we have relations that are different, but we're all in the same category of human beings. So there's the predominator I who feeds the rest of us, the predominated eyes. And so there's a big difference between the two principles of I. So this is what Srila Prabhupada explains very, 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 very carefully. The text itself is talking about the Lord exists in all circumstances of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. And then Srila Prabhupada quoted so many other places in the Vedic hymns that explain this and accept this. One is Vasudeva va idam agra asin na Brahma na cha Shankara eko Narayan asin na Brahma neshana. Before the creation, there was none except Vasudeva. So, and then some impersonators talk about the kingdom of God being void, but it's not true. So we'll take the opportunity to talk about some of those things that's in the Vaikuntha sky. The Vaikuntha planets, there's so much variegatedness there. We know there's a lot of variegatedness even on this planet, but the Vaikuntha planets are full of transcendental variegatedness. In the Vaikuntha planets, different from the Goloka Vrindavan, the special planet Goloka Vrindavana is farther from all other Vaikuntha planets. The Vaikuntha planets themselves have 400 residents. Residents, 400, look in form like Lord Narayan, who also has 4 hands. There is great opulence of wealth and prosperity. And there are so many amenities, even airplanes, but not as crude as the ones that are here. So there are, even and then Srila describes it in the Lamita. He talked about the airplanes, it's like shaped like a bird, like a swan. It's not actually a swan, but it's shaped like a swan. And by the way, they don't need any maintenance. These are spiritual. They are spiritual, and therefore they also, of course, they serve in the neutral ras, but they are spiritual. And these amenities are there, and there is so much opulence that's there. In Goloka Vrindavan too, this is true, but it's in a more rural setting. The wealth is still there, the rural setting, because Krishna tending the cows, and he and then the different groves and the different forests. Mhm. And then there are different places where there are houses that are huge and they're extremely well decorated and so many gems studded. This is home. This is home. So no matter what happens here, we have to understand one thing. We're living a Kali Yuga life, which is based on what the material energy has trapped us into. We're just trying to manage with the material energy, and we think we're okay, especially those of us living in a relatively wealthy country. So things are provided. But actually, everything that's here, somebody had to think through it, work hard to try to bring it to existence, and in so doing, trying to make some um, Lakshmi from it, and then then we use it depending on whether you have enough money to buy it or not. Some have, others don't have. And of course, because of that, there would be envy. Sometimes it comes up between somebody who has, and I mean, somebody who is envious of somebody else who has material things that they don't have. None of that ever occurs in the spiritual world because the living is such that, and it's, of course, there's no death also, to throw that in, is such that everything is provided. We don't have to be in anxiety about how we're going to go on. At all times, there's just a wonderful, loving atmosphere and one quote unquote party after another going on with the Lord and the Lord's devotees. So it is a very, very wonderful situation that Krishna is in anxiety telling us, when will these souls come back here from the material world? We should never, ever get used to this because if we get used to the material world, we are in illusion. We're thinking we're going to be happy. But as long as the material world is set up in such a way that there is adibotic miseries from other entities, all the time there are insects trying to make us sick, but they're just trying to live though. That's just their life. But even in living, germs make us sick. Hmm? What kind of life is this? Hmm? I remember one example that was given sometime back also in the 90s. And he says, it goes like this. Two friends, and one tells the other, listen, let's go to this place. Hmm? And the friend asks, well, what's there? Well, all right, well, let's go. But when you go, you can have a decent place to live, but they won't give it to you. You have to struggle for it. And after a while, you'll have to get some education, a short while, and you stay in there for a while. And whether you like it or not, you have to really, really, really struggle hard. And sometimes you will fail. And after you finish, there's a situation that you have to get into of work just to sustain yourself. You're going to be taxed, and then later on there'll be wars, and then there'll be some people will cheat you because you want some things, and they want so much more from you because they want more money to make themselves more wealthy, so they'll cheat you. So there are wars and there are other arguments, and your friend will say, "You want me to go to that kind of place? Now, why would I want to go there?" Now, if you look at it from that standpoint, nobody's going to want to go there. So then the last question was, then why have we come? Because this is exactly the place that's been described. Mm. So when Srila Prabhupada is trying to help us to go back, that is his mercy that he is in fact showering on us because he knows what is better for us. One time in a walk with his disciples, it was a nice day, and it was like in the mid 70s, the temperature. And there was a slight breeze that was blowing, very, 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 very soft, not fast at all. This nice, pleasant breeze. And Srila Prabhupada made the comment. He says, this weather is like the weather in the spiritual world. So the point he's making is the weather is nice all of the time. You don't have to get too hot, don't have to get too cold. So that's just weather. And the breeze is very nice and very steady and not too fast and not too slow in terms of the velocity, the speed of the breeze. So everything is perfect in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha Lokas. And that's what Srila Prabhupada wants us to just do a little bit of, put a little bit of effort on our part, and this is available for us. So we should, in fact, give ourselves to Krishna, submitting to Krishna. And those who do this, who understand that the activities and also the birth of Krishna, the appearance of Krishna, are all transcendental. As it says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yu viditatvata tyatva deham puna janma neti mameti sarjuna. The person who is really, really understanding the truth about the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities, that person does not take birth in the material world. When they leave, they will go to the eternal abode. So we should be that kind of person, that all of the activities of Krishna are transcendental. We should understand it that way, even if it's similar. And also we have to understand that it is Krishna. Don't let anybody else tell us differently. It is Krishna that is the source of everything. Before the material world came, he was there. And the spiritual world was always in existence also. So it's from there he created the world of this illusion. Illusion, it's real, it's illusory because people think they're going to be happy here. But it never gives us real happiness. You try and somehow you realize that you're getting tired, and then you have to retire, the body slows down, and then you're looking at death. None of this happens in the spiritual world. So the transcendental nature of the Lord's body and activities, when a person understands that, they will go back to the spiritual world because they will live their lives in accordance with that understanding. And with that understanding, that truth, then they will get opportunity to go. So we should be one of those. We should say, you are Sri Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead. Nobody should steer us away from that, even if we don't know how unlimited he is and nobody can tell, but he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we go through this life, anybody telling us anything different, we should try to educate them, but we should never be steered away from them. That comes from association with devotees. Association with devotees and staying away from impersonalists. Staying away from impersonalists because they have strong arguments that may turn our minds away from this point. But they are only looking to merge to the effulgence of Krishna, and that does not give real activity. It doesn't. And there's the opportunity, the risk of falling back into this whole earth again and starting over. So the Lord is the Supreme Lord, and we have to learn Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We're better off, we can read, but learn from others who are experienced. Then we'll have a greater understanding and more appreciation and love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So thank you for allowing me to do the service. Now, if you want to make some comments or ask questions for clarity, you can unmute yourself at this time to do. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. To anyone?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance. Thank you so much for this wonderful class, and really liked the part of the class where you stress so much about reading Prabhupada's books, because I was remembering how Sri Prabhupada says that everybody should read my books. Not just some. He never said selected. He never said just Bhagavad Gita. He never said just Bhagavad. He just said all my books. Because if we don't read all the books, then why did Prabhupada even write those books? So thank you so much for stressing the point of the importance of reading all of Shri Prabhupada's books. And there's another point that you mentioned that I want to ask if you could elaborate on. You know, you made a very nice point where in the spiritual world, everything is perfect.
Yeah.
But we are not perfect. That's why we are here. And sometimes we dream and we fantasize, oh, the spiritual world has this, the spiritual world has that. Becomes like a fantasy movie, you know? It has light breeze, every step is a dance, every word is a song, like we kind of like fantasize it. And we think, oh, when can I get into the spiritual world? But we know that the spiritual world is perfect, but we are not. So how can we prepare ourselves? What should our mood be to fit into the spirit, to be a resident of the spiritual world?
In one sentence, to do what the spiritual master guides us to do would give us the opportunity to go back. So follow the instructions of a spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master knows the truth. You can ask any questions of a spiritual master and he will reveal the truth because Krishna speaks through the spiritual master. Now, having said that, the one point that has come out many, many times in different ways in lectures as well as in the books that Srila Prabhupada has written is the importance of two things. One, sadhana, and two, seva. And Chandramaharaj Swami was talking about that yesterday. Sadhana, seva. We have to make time to chant the minimum of 16 rounds. We're not there yet. We have to give time to be able to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. It should be a goal that the devotees should try to reach. Now, also, the regulated principles, no meat eating, fish or eggs, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, should be paramount in our lives. These are all preparations to take us back to the spiritual world. So that's the sadhana. And the sadhana includes a little bit of, having to be doing a little tapasya because this wasn't our life before, therefore there's adjustment. And the adjustment to do that is tapasya. Making time to chant 16 rounds. Some people take 1.5 hours, some people take 2 hours, some a little over 2 hours. You can break it into 2 sessions or 3 sessions in the day, and especially in the morning, starting off with the rounds. Krishna would actually reward us very nicely. Our day goes well. Many, many people have made that statement. They're starting with chanting of the holy name, the Lord affects how the day goes. You put Krishna first, he put you first. The extent to which we surrender to him, he awards accordingly. Now, so the chanting and obeying the regulated principles are there. Then there is service. And the service can be done at home, cooking, offering what we cook to Krishna and taking the remnants of it. And that's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. Without doing that, then whatever we eat without, offering to Krishna, Krishna says that's sin. So we have to be aware of that. Then we also have to be careful not to offend other devotees. Life in the spiritual world is very pleasant. If we want to go to the spiritual world, we have to have a pleasant attitude, even among the challenges that we face here. We have to be tolerant. And then we also have to we shouldn't be the one to make enemies. Some people may not like us, but that's their, stage that they're at. But we shouldn't dislike other people on the grounds of like becoming an enemy like that. No. we always should look at devotees, no matter what they've done wrong and we're uncomfortable with, that it's part of the mental sickness. The devotee is going through purification. So that is very, very, very important to look at it that way. You do not blame a sick person. You try to help them to heal. Now, the services, there's so many temples, and we should definitely offer services to the temple. We'll take the least situation, the situation that is the person is not able to come to a temple because of where they live, at least not on a regular basis. But one thing that can happen is that person can contribute financially to the temple. That is, they don't have to travel to do that. They can, in fact, make the post office do it, or online, they can contribute. Just like in the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, a lot of devotees are contributing there, and not everybody lives in India or Mayapur, but they're able to do that. So when we're serious about going back to Godhead, then all of these things become important for us to do. So if you are close to a temple, or if you have a temple that you go regularly, you have to find something, some service to do there. And there's always service. There's always service to be done. We ask the temple authorities for service, they will plug you in. Or sometimes when you see something that you haven't even been asked to do, but you know it has to be done, don't wait to be told to do, or just look past it. Do something about it immediately, because everything that you do, we have to understand this, even no matter how menial it is, Krishna looks at our hearts. So for Krishna, there's no menial service. Physically, it may look menial: sweeping, cleaning, mopping, scrubbing, cleaning dishes, cleaning pots, those kind of things, cleaning tables. So there's all of that qualifies menial services. And then, of course, there's the altar services the pujaris do. You have to have particular training and understand some mantras before you can get on. But Krishna looks at all of that, menial or non-menial, as the same in terms of satisfying Krishna's senses. Krishna's house is the temple, the special house. He owns everything, but the special house is 100% business of Krishna is the temple. Serve there, or serve in other ways too. When we read the Papa's books, we have to discuss them. Then we'll have greater understanding. And these will help us to go back to the spiritual world. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you for the question. Now, what I,
as you were speaking, I was even remembering how, you talked about seva, you talked about sadhana, you talked about, Vaishnav etiquette, Vaishnav sadachar. And I was thinking how devotee care is also so important, because devotee care means compassion, which means we take care of the Lord's devotees. We look out for them. We take care of them. We, nourish them, whatever, because that is the mood in the spiritual world. There's so much care over there. There's so much love. There's so much compassion. There's so much the mood of das, anudas. And so we have to come to the level of being the servant of the servant and really caring for the devotees of the Lord, because that is the mood in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. So thank you so much for talking about that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, anyone else want to chime in? In the meantime, I've put some things about the Bhakti Lounge. The Bhakti Lounge, for those who are on here, I did put the ID and the password. If you're able to get on here, it is exactly the same ID and password that you use to get on the Zoom Bhagavatam class. But still, I've put in the same thing. If you want to come join in for the reading of Srila Prabhupada's small books and the discussion of them, it's Thursdays beginning at 6:30. Just log on the way you did for this Bhagavatam class and you'll be in. And we'll have a discussion. Now, we are doing Science of Self-Realization. Do you have to have the book? Not necessarily. If you have it, that's nice. If not, it's pulled on the screen. So you can look at it, we can have a discussion like that on there. So some people come with books and some people don't. and still we'll have discussion. The more we discuss about Krishna, especially through Srila Prabhupada's books, the better off we'll be spiritually. Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, so thank you very much for all of you coming on there. The Zoom call. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So anyone can come for the Bhakti Lounge program. Okay. Thursday, 6:30. It's for 1 hour, 6:30 to 7:30. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.